and hello. And let's see, that's up there. Now, I want to make this. Sorry about you guys on the live screen. I wonder if that'll work. Okay. Hello. This is the opening of my show. You can't really see it. I'm not going to do that. That's kind of weird. It's not really working. Anyway, that was my Live with Lisa show opening that I had way back in the day when well, not way back, that pretty far back, but, and close and X. And now I want to talk to you about the voter fraud. Okay, here's the deal. The only thing that matters is election fraud if you're a Democrat. Because Democrats, guess what? Oh my gosh, my computer. Okay, there it is. Okay, election fraud is the only thing that matters, because if your elected officials know that they don't have to worry about what they do while they're elected and while they're serving supposedly you in the office, because they know they're going to get reelected in perpetuity, then they don't care. They don't care. So we cannot allow them to continue to fix the elections. Otherwise, the country is going to keep going in the wrong direction. We're going to keep inviting crooks to continue to bilk us dry for, it's ridiculous. I saw one video, I don't have it up here, so I'm not going to show it to you, but I saw one video where this nice fellow, this accountant fellow, thought it was rather odd that there was 21, he did the research, there's $21 trillion that has gone missing in the federal government. 21 trillion. That's not M with a million or B with a billion. It's $1 trillion. Hello. So, there's a lot of money, and the wealthiest counties are all in Washington, D.C. So we've got to stop the election fraud. Okay, how's the election fraud going? When I first moved here to Kansas from Oregon, after hitting my head against the wall, trying in vain to expose the election fraud, and so that I could have fair elections, and so that we could vote out some of these crooks that are serving time. I wish they were serving time. That were milking us dry in our state capital in Salem and in Washington, D.C. But I realized after many different elections, I found out that if you are a candidate running for office, it doesn't matter why you want to do it. You can call for a recount of your votes. You can do a partial recount, few precincts, or you can do a full recount of the whole state. But you have to pay per precinct. So I never had the money, neither did any of my clients that I helped manage their campaign have enough money to recount the entire state, if there was a statewide race, or their entire district, if it was a district-wide race, because it was just cost prohibitive, which I'm sure they did that on purpose. So, but what I did find was that there's massive election fraud in Oregon, and they do it in a couple of ways. They start with the voter registrations, and my man, Chris Kobach, has been great with that. He's required, you have to show proof of citizenship when you register to vote, so that illegal aliens and dead people, underage children, cartoon characters are not able to vote. Well, I guess they maybe could do dead people, but I'm not sure on that. Anyway, there's that. So you've got the election fraud, getting people in there that are registered to vote so they can vote for them. And then they can vote for them more easily if they vote by mail. because they don't have to show up. So they can register their dog, their cat, their long dead relatives, their underage children, their cartoon characters, illegal aliens, people that have moved out of their state, their neighbor that's moved out of the state, people that, once lived in a dorm in college or fraternity, sorority, whatever. That's why that's my theory on why a lot of the colleges are replete with voter fraud. So then there's that. So there's voter registration fraud. But not to be undone by Chris Kobach or any other uppity Secretary of State that might want to infringe on the Democrats' ability to rig the elections. They tasked this fellow, and I've talked about it before, this fellow from Washington, D.C., an insider guy, to go back to his home state of Nebraska and build these electronic voting machines. Then get it all throughout the state of Nebraska. This was in the 90s. And then to test it, he ran for U.S. Senate. Now, he couldn't run as a Democrat because the Democrat was the ex-governor who'd been term limited out. Very popular guy, Ben Nelson. So he had to run as a Republican, which gives you the added advantage that if people discover that these new fangled electronic voting machines are easy to rig and can be rigged and are being rigged, then they can blame it on the Republicans. Now, that's not to say that I don't think the Republicans are at fault for a lot of things, but I'm not so sure that the Republicans are the fault for that. Anyway, he rigged his election for the Senate against the very, very popular ex-governor. Nobody knew who he was. The only required campaign worker you have to have on your campaign when you make a PAC is your treasurer, and his treasurer was his business partner at the election machines company. How convenient! Okay. So anyway, he rigs the elections. He gets these machines. Now these machines are all over. Now this is the second part of the election for fixing, is the machines, the electronic voting machines. And unfortunately, my man Chris Kobach, who's running for governor here, I'm afraid he's going to lose out in the primary or in the general election if he doesn't take care of business in this regard. Because I've talked to him a couple times and his eyes glaze over. It's like he thinks I'm some sort of wacko, thinking that there's some sort of rigging going on with these machines. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting the wrong impression. You want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a great guy. I think he's wonderful. I always tell him I think he should run for president someday. Although he's very, very happy with Donald Trump. He always tells me, no, I really like our current president. So the bottom line is sometimes you get so tunnel visioned into one area. People for instance, I sell advertising time and been in marketing for years. And people in a certain industry are so tunnel visioned in their own area of expertise that a lot of times they don't see the forest through the trees. And I'm not so sure he's as willing to be concerned about the election machines. But I want to show you the video that really this showed us. I want to show you this. This was in, this was February 1st, 2008. That's how old this video is. These are the machines that, let me do this thing. Let me get this thing. View not floating. Okay, so this is the machines that they have in Kansas City and all around Kansas.
Voting machines used across the country vulnerable to hacking. One professor decided to find out for himself.
That's right. Joining us right now, Princeton University professor Ed Felton with a demonstration from his study. Good morning to you, Ed.
Good morning.
Also, right over there across the studio, you got the two kids from Princeton who actually did this work, Ari and Alex. Now, tell us, 5% of the country votes with machines like this, right?
Yes, that's right.
And you are able to hack into it in 10 seconds.
It takes only a few seconds to insert a computer virus into this voting machine.
But how technologically savvy do you have to be a hacker to do this? I mean,
you have to be able to write computer programs,
yep.
Which a lot of people can do.
Sure.
You need to be able to open up this door on the side, which anybody can do, and that's about it.
All right, let's see how it works.
Yeah, you want to show me, if I'm
Sure.
voting, what happens, how it goes wrong, you say?
So we have set this machine up. We've infected it with our virus in advance.
Okay.
And we're running a simulated election here between George Washington and Benedict Arnold.
I think I know who I'll vote for.
All right.
Go ahead, pop it in.
I'm on your side.
For you.
Okay.
And just wait a
So
second.
when I go to vote in an electronic voting machine, it looks similar. It's just like this.
Just like this.
5% of the
This is a
country.
real machine.
Okay, so I say start.
Yes.
Yeah,
Click next
I want George Washington.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, now I do next.
Next.
All right.
And cast ballot.
And I see that has registered my vote
That's
correctly. George Washington, I'd like to cast my ballot. Very simple.
All right. Now,
it.
I'm going to vote.
Just a minute.
All right. So every person gets a different voter
Yes,
access
that's
card, right? All right.
It takes a minute.
Loading base. All
at
right.
the bottom.
Start. I'm voting for George Washington. Okay. Cast ballot.
There you go.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Now I'm going to cast a third vote, also for George Washington.
All right. Well, we're going to watch just to make sure.
All right. Watch very carefully.
Voting ballot. You're starting. You're voting for George Washington. Okay, good enough. And then you cast your ballot.
So there should be 3 votes for George Washington.
votes for George
What are we going to
Washington,
see?
yes.
But because you have infected this machine with a virus, perhaps George Washington will not be the winner.
That's right.
All right, so now you're putting in the
I'm putting
supervisor
the
card.
supervisor card. Now it's the
Okay.
end of election day, and
Time
I'm
to
the
count
election
the
worker. We're going to
votes.
count the votes.
Yep.
All right, very
Right.
good.
So I stick this in,
Yeah.
and it takes a minute. I need to put in the highly secret pin 1111.
Okay.
there you go.
I think you just accidentally said that out loud. Okay.
Okay, ballot station.
Not secret anymore. I'm going to end the election,
Okay.
Yeah.
and that's okay with me.
Yep.
Okay.
And now I'm going to print the results on this printer.
Okay, quickly, very quickly.
Yes. And the results will come out. So here's what happened.
Yeah.
Inside the machine, it was keeping an electronic record of every vote.
Right.
3 votes for George. But the computer virus went and switched the votes inside the computer's memory.
All right.
And when you see this result, what you see, look at the tape right here.
Hold it right there, very
Yeah.
carefully.
1 vote for George Washington and 2 for Benedict.
So you're saying
my
that hackers would have had to have done this before people voted. They would have had to have infected it with a virus,
Wow.
and then it skews the
Before
results.
election day?
Oh,
Yep.
my goodness.
Anytime before election day.
Ed Felton, professor of computer science at Princeton, we thank you very much. By the way, when we come back, we're going to read the statement from Diebold. They said that.
Okay. So anyway, that is let's see. That's what's going on with those are the machines that we have in Kansas and around Kansas City. So what's going to happen if right now, every year since I first got here and volunteered in my first election, I think in 2013, might have been 2014, I was told that they had gotten the money, they were approved to get new machines, but they were gonna wait until next year. So 2015 comes. You know what? We can do it, but we're gonna wait till next year. 2016 comes, still have obviously they've known about this for almost 10 years, 9 years, 8 years at that time, I guess. Still don't get any new machines. 2017, still no new machines. So, love ya, mean it, Chris Kobach. If you do not insist that they get new voting machines, or better yet, outlaw all voting machines. What do we know about all computers? All computers can be hacked. So why are we voting on electronic voting machines? Why are we voting on computers? We need to go back to paper. I know it sounds crazy to some of you techno freaks, but it's really got it. We've really got to. It's real simple. You go back. There's not that many votes that happen at each one of the polling places. Each one of the polling places is manned by an even number of elected precinct committee people. They're elected by other people from their party. So other Democrats will elect their Democrats and Republicans will elect theirs. So there you've got people of, an even number of people from both sides of the political table there. And they count the ballots, the paper ballots that are cast at their particular precinct. They tally them up in an organized fashion. Then they take them in a secure container to the county elections to be tallied with all the other votes. And then if there's any problem, if there's a need for a recount, you simply take out the paper ballots and recount them. There is no problem. There is no fraud. Of course, that coupled with the wonderful things that Chris Kobach has done with regards to making sure that the registration of all of the people is legit. You don't have long dead relatives, underage children, cartoon characters, illegal aliens, people that have relocated out of the estate. Don't have any of that to determine the vote, which are the people that determine the vote. Make no mistake, those are the people that are determining the votes right now. So, Now I started this little odyssey by talking about Judge Roy Moore because I was so horrified. I watched it on election night, and they were certainly stealing the elections. So this is a video. Well, first, before we go to that, I'm going to get to the research and the voter fraud that they found in the state of Alabama. I think the Alabama citizens, somebody needs to start a class action lawsuit against the Republican Party in Alabama, the Democrat Party in Alabama, and the Secretary of State because they have been railroaded. Their votes have been stolen from them. So, but anyway, I want to show you. This is an update. This is what prompted me to do the video. My friend Chris Kobach, the great Chris Kobach, who headed up the deal for the President's Election Integrity Commission that's been pushed off to the DHS, Department of Homeland Security. Yeah. So anyway, here it is, and let's see. Alrighty, we're gonna watch this. And sorry, these people that are doing this live. Mm-hmm.
President Trump decided to disband the Presidential Commission on Election Integrity, which I was vice chairman of, and he's handing the ball off to the Department of Homeland Security. I want to talk to you a little bit about why that's occurring and why I think it's a good idea. What had happened over the past few months is a number of lawsuits have been filed by Democrats and by left-leaning organizations like the ACLU trying to stop the commission from even investigating voter fraud. It's ridiculous. They say that voter fraud doesn't exist, but then when you form a commission to see how much of it there is, they don't want the commission to do its work. They wanted to stop it in its tracks. And while they weren't winning in court, they were succeeding in slowing the commission down. The staff of the commission was spending more time dealing with litigation than they were doing the investigation of voter fraud. So the decision was made, ultimately by President Trump, to hand the ball off to the Department of Homeland Security, which will continue the investigation, but within an executive agency of the Trump administration. And I fully support that decision. I'll still be involved with the White House in conducting this investigation, advising the president and his team on how this investigation should occur, but it will be done inside the Department of Homeland Security rather than in a presidential advisory commission. As a side benefit of it all, that will give me more time as the campaign moves into its final stages. The lawsuits were slowing the commission down so much that I was beginning to fear that the commission would have to continue its work into July and August, the primary, and then maybe even into September and October during the general election. Now that things are going to be put in the hands of the Department of Homeland Security, we'll be able to get the investigation done much more quickly. So I'm very happy about that and happy about the fact that I'll have more time to focus on the election for governor in the great state of Kansas. But I will continue to be focusing on voter fraud. As you may have also heard, we just announced today two more criminal prosecutions of people for double voting. In these cases, they double voted in both Kansas and Colorado in the same election. This brings the total to 14 of the cases that I have either prosecuted to a conviction. We have 9 of those cases already to a conviction, or pending. We have 3 cases pending in addition to the 2 cases that we just announced today. So in approximately 2 years, a little over 2 years that we've had this authority to prosecute voter fraud, we have prosecuted quite a few cases, up to 14 now, and the number will continue to grow, hopefully, as we are able to discover cases of voter fraud and prosecute them. And then, hopefully, at some point in the future, voter fraud will become an increasingly scarce thing in the state of Kansas.
Okay, so that's that. Alrighty. Okay. This is kind of weird the way I'm doing it. There's some weird thing that I have to quit. There's some weird thing that I'm supposed to do if I go live streaming on my laptop. And I have to do some sort of software. It's too complicated. With my iPad, it's so much easier, but it looks kind of Mickey Mouse. But anyway, so there's that one. Now, also, I want to show you on my conservativelisa.blogspot.com. So there it is. That's my website. Okay. And so I've got a whole page on voter integrity right here. And I also have this just like different issues, because this has been my main issue for many years. Climate change and all that stuff. All that stuff. Trying to expose the truth. We've got to do it. We need authentic news. And you cannot find it on the mainstream media. Especially that Media Doesn't Matter website. That's terrible. So we've got to find truth tellers. We've got to find people that are willing to do the research. And I've done the research. I have interviewed the election the election offices in 2 different states, several election directors of elections, to see how the whole process works. And it's like making sausage. It's pretty complicated, but you can boil it all down. Here's what needs to happen. What needs to happen: you need to go to paper ballots, only voting on election day. You have to show proof of citizenship in order to be registered to vote. And let's see, what else? Vote on election day with paper ballots counted by each of the polling places. When they register, you have to show proof of citizenship. No absentee balloting unless you have a proof that you need to, but like your say your military or you're away at college, something like that, and you can't make it. Other than that, everybody has to vote only on election day at their polling place if they want their vote to count. If they don't really care that much, then they don't have to. But we can't be having these people bust from location to location to vote in the names of dead people and underage children, cartoon characters, and illegal aliens. We just can't do this anymore. We got to stop it. So, okay, one more video, I think, is all I need to show you. There's that one. Yeah, and this is the gal. This is an update on what's going on with Roy Moore, and I haven't even seen it all myself, but it's an interview with the gal who's talking about all the fraud that they found when they were, all the fraud that they found when they were checking for election integrity after the race in Alabama. I mean, how else would the guy win? I mean, really? It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that out. You don't have a super conservative state like Alabama turning tail and voting for a pro-kill your baby screaming liberal. I mean, really? I mean, I don't even think people knew who he was, or, I mean, he's a big nothing. This Doug Jones guy. And I can't believe, I'm hoping and praying that they use this to entrap some of the crooked people that are in Alabama and in the Republican Party who spent millions of dollars to keep this guy out, because they didn't want somebody who was genuinely honest in the Senate, in the U.S. Senate, that they couldn't control. They couldn't blackmail or bribe. And they can't blackmail or bribe. I've checked this guy out. He's the real deal. Roy Moore. Yeah, he's the real deal. He's not guilty any of this sexual harassment stuff. They probably burned down the house, the gal. I mean, I don't know what happened to that. But who knows if there was evidence showing that it was a fraud that in the house, or maybe that's a plea for sympathy. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't wish any negative anything on anybody, no matter what. I mean, God even wants Hillary Clinton in heaven, but she has to apologize for all the horrible things she's done to God, and she has to turn her life around. And she has to forgive everybody that she's all hating on. And she needs to ask God into her life. He'll forgive her even for all the bad stuff. Doesn't matter. He wants everybody. When you do something wrong down here on earth, you get out. You either get out because you served your time, or you get out because you die. But you get out. If you go to hell, you never get out. And best lie Satan ever did was make you think that there is no hell. There is definitely hell. So get yourselves ready. But anyway, enough of that. I want to show you this video of this gal who worked with Roy Moore in researching the election integrity. Let's see, get this guy up there.
She's been on CNN. She's been on MSNBC. She's been on the major news networks as the campaign spokesman for our dear friend Roy Moore, who ran for United States Senate in Alabama. Here joining us live via Skype from Ohio, where Janet recently returned after the holidays, is Janet Porter. Janet, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Chap. So glad to be with you.
So, Janet, we are so proud of you, and let me just say to all the viewers who now have discovered you on CNN and MSNBC and everywhere else, we had you here first on PIJN News, and I'm so glad to have you back after the whirlwind tour. Describe the last month of your life personally.
Well, it all started, you remember, Dr. Chaps, when we decided we needed to stand with our friend, knowing that he was falsely accused. And as time went on, those accusations unraveled. Their web that they were weaving came undone. When we saw even the accuser,
Okay, I want to go
where they saw the biggest Roy Moore turnout, that is where all of a sudden none of the patterns were followed. And if you looked at the map, if you looked at the actual graph of what happened, you see it in the first part of this graph. You see all of the patterns. They all followed. They were all within a few percentage points of what you'd expect them to be, the patterns for the rest of the state. But in these 20 counties, forget about it. Everything was out the door. Any pattern, anything, because what they completely were able to target and pinpoint it down. That they took votes from Roy Moore. The only thing that would make sense in a mathematical formula in the algorithm that they targeted was to take votes by leaps and bounds from Roy Moore and put it in the Doug Jones comment. In fact, the one mathematician who's a world-renowned expert, he said that there is a 1 in 15 billion chance that this happened naturally. In other words, there's 1 in 15 billion chance that this was not voter fraud sufficient to change the outcome of the election. Sadly, even though that complaint was filed, the Judge Hardwick, and we're hearing from people in the courthouse who say, send it to me, I'll take care of it. Well, they've got affidavits they're writing right now that judge didn't want to, he was one who said, give me this complaint because I'll dismiss it right away, and that's what happened. Then we looked at the Secretary of State. Now, one of the things I pointed out, sadly I wasn't able to do it adequately on CNN, but I made the point that what we're guaranteed by the Constitution, and this is not just Alabama, this is across the country, that we can cast our vote, and number two, we can make sure that vote is in fact cast and counted. So what's missing in the formula in Alabama is that they've got these secret computers that are housed in Omaha, Nebraska, and nobody's allowed to look at it. So they either throw out the ballot images that are gathered, or they never gather them in the first place, which is what the Secretary of State, John Merrill, said. We never gathered those images of the ballot. Really? Because the Supreme Court has said you have to verify these votes. Just like Ronald Reagan said, you trust, but verify. So you have no way of counting how many ballots were fed through a machine. You have no way of counting how many ballots were cast, if in fact these people were registered to vote. This is what's wrong. It all points to voter fraud. And that, chap, is the heart of the beast. That's where we need to get to. Because if they can manipulate electronically the voter outcome, then we have lost our country. There is no republic. There are no fair and free elections anymore.
Well, Janet, we've got to take a short break, but it sounds like if Roy Moore lost by about 20,000 votes, then these votes that were fraudulently reversed in these 20 precincts in Birmingham County, they could have counted for much more than the 20,000 votes, and actually that would say that Roy Moore should have, in fact, did win this election, but was not granted the victory. Let's take a short break. When we come back, I'll ask Janet Porter, how is Roy Moore doing personally after this tragic defeat?
Giving you a megaphone. Electoral College.
People don't know that. And yes, no one's surprised. He knows him. He passed it successfully. That he didn't know any of these women who made the accusations. Not talking about the women who didn't make accusations, but the ones who made accusations, he didn't know any of them. And he never engaged in any sexual misconduct. So the good news is, at least even though they wouldn't take a look at this complaint, even though Secretary of State John Merrill did not do his job, did not investigate fraud, at least we saw the truth come out to some degree that Judge Moore passed the polygraph. And I got to tell you something. I mean, you know this, Jeff. He is such a godly man. All of these false accusations completely discredited. But it's the closest thing. I've been involved in the political world for a long, long time, most of my life. But this is the closest thing I've ever seen to working for a founding father. This is a guy that we absolutely could have trusted to drain the swamp in Washington, to take on the establishment, as well as the machine that would that worked to unseat him, to work to make sure he lost this election. And that's why he was hated so much. You know, if you want to know where people stand, I look to not just who their friends are, I look to see who their enemies are. And when Mitch McConnell, when you have the Republican establishment hate this man, as well as the Democrats, as well as all of fake news, and all the false accusers who all lined up, even to the point where they said, this is what he signed. Oh, wait, what I meant to say is, well, I signed part of that. Oh, wait, I lied. So what Gloria Allred, the abortion activist, had to say essentially was, my client lied, the evidence is forged, it's completely fraudulent, but other than that, we've got a really great case. Well, people did start to see the truth. And if it weren't for the fact that we've got secret machines in Omaha, Nebraska, that no one can verify, and we are not allowed to look at ballot images, they've not even captured them, said Secretary of State Merrill, who I think should be challenged in the primary or a general election as well. This is what we're dealing with. And so, where is Judge Moore on this? I'll just tell you. Toward the end, I was talking to him, 4 or 5 times a day, and he is standing strong. He knew what he did was right, and he doesn't need to be elected to serve God and to this is not about any political ambition on his part at all. He said, if whatever God's will is, I'm going to serve him in whatever capacity. Of course, he's got the Foundation for Moral Law, and I'd like to see him. I mean, I give him counsel from time to time, and I think he'd be a great candidate for governor against the woman who also was one of the canvassing board that affirmed and certified these fraudulent elections without so much as an investigation. He'd make a great governor. He'd make a great senator when this comes back again. But first, we've got to address the heart of the beast, and that is secret ballots, secret computers in another state that nobody can look at and no one can verify.
Janet, when I was in Alabama 3 times this past year, and the most distant time, maybe over a year ago, I met the Secretary of State, John Merrill. I walked into his office. He welcomed me. I spent about 20 minutes talking with him. He showed me some of his football trophies and a map of Alabama, and he talked about his campaign statewide. I think he has political ambitions to become governor of Alabama, and I wouldn't be surprised if he opposed Roy Moore for political reasons, but I was surprised that he did not give a fair shake on the legal complaints that were filed against him. I know he has a job to defend himself in court, but do you suspect John Merrill's motives?
Well, I'll tell you, when your job is to make sure that those votes are not only cast but counted, that are verified, then he's not doing his job. He even said on national television that he hadn't even read the main part of the complaint, which is from those researchers who analyzed this. Basically said you've got a 1 in 15 billion chance that what happened in these 22 precincts in Jefferson County alone and elsewhere around the state, that this happened naturally. He did not look at that, even read it. And that is, I think, a dereliction of duty. He's not done his job, which is part of what the people of Alabama elected him to do, and I think.
Okay, I think we basically got that. All right, thank you very much for your time, and you have a blessed day. So long from Live with Lisa, Accountability, Election Fraud. And I'll be back in touch with you soon. Dear Jesus, we ask you to bless everybody who's seen this video and continue to open their hearts up to you and the truth of your wonderful and glorious creation. Just we pray in Jesus' name, amen. Yeah.